Extract from Captain Stormfield's Visit to Heaven by Mark Twain, 1909. Chapter 2, Part 3. All of a sudden, the whole region fairly rocked under the crash of 1,101 thunder blasts. All left off at once, and Sandy says, "There, that's for the barkeep." I jumped up and says, "Then let's be moving along, Sandy. We don't want to miss any of this thing, you know." "Keep your seat," he says. "He is only just telegraphed, that is all." "How?" "That blast only means that he has been sighted from the signal station. He is off Sandy Hook. The committees will go down to meet him now and escort him in. There will be ceremonies and delays. They won't be coming up the bay for a considerable time yet. It is several billion miles away anyway." "I could have been a barkeeper and a hard lot just as well as not," says I, remembering the lonesome way I arrived and how there wasn't any committee nor anything. "I noticed some regret in your voice," says Sandy, "and it is natural enough, but let bygones be bygones. You went according to your lights, and it is too late now to mend the thing." "No, let it slide, Sandy, I don't mind, but you've got a Sandy Hook here, too, have you?" "We've got everything here, just as it is below. All the states and territories of the Union, and all the kingdoms of the earth and the islands of the sea are laid out here just as they are on the globe. All the same shape they are down there, and all graded to the relative size, only each state and realm and island is a good many billion times bigger here than it is below. There goes another blast." "What is that one for?" "That is only another forward answering the first one. They each fire 1,101 thunder blasts at a single dash. It is the usual salute for an 11th hour guest. 100 for each hour and an extra one for the guest's sex. If it was a woman, we would know it by their leaving off the extra gun." "How do we know there's 1,101, Sandy, when they all go off at once?" "And yet we certainly do know. Our intellects are a good deal sharpened up here in some ways, and that is one of them. Numbers and sizes and distances are so great here that we have to be made so we can feel them. Our old ways of counting and measuring and ciphering would never give us an idea of them, but would only confuse us and oppress us and make our heads ache." After some more talk about this, I says, "Sandy, I notice that I hardly ever see a white angel. Where I run across one white angel, I strike as many as 100 million copper-colored ones. People that can't speak English. How is that?" "Well, you will find it the same in any state or territory of the American corner of heaven you choose to go to. I have shot along a whole week on a stretch and gone millions and millions of miles through perfect swarms of angels without ever seeing a single white one or hearing a word I could understand. You see, America was occupied 1 billion years and more by Indians and Aztecs and that sort of folk before a white man ever set his foot in it. During the first 300 years after Columbus's discovery, there wasn't ever more than one good lecture audience of white people all put together in America. I mean the whole thing, British possessions and all. In the beginning of our century, there were only 6 million or 7 million, say 7, 12 million or 14 million in 1825, say 23 million in 1850, 40 million in 1875. Our death rate has always been 20 in 1,000 per annum. Well, 140,000 died the first year of the century, 280,000 the 25th year, 500,000 the 50th year, about 1 million the 75th year. Now, I am going to be liberal about this thing and consider that 50 million whites have died in America from the beginning up to today. Make it 60 if you want to. Make it 100 million. It's no difference. About a few millions, one way or the other. Well, now you can see yourself that when you come to spread a little dab of people like that over these hundreds of billions of miles of American territory here in heaven, it is like scattering a 10-cent box of homeopathic pills over the great Sahara and expecting to find them again. You can't expect us to amount to anything in heaven, and we don't. Now that is a simple fact, and we have got to do the best we can with it. The learned men from other planets and other systems come here and hang around a while when they are touring around the kingdom, and then go back to their own section of heaven and write a book of travels, and they give America about 5 lines in it. And what do they say about us? They say this wilderness is populated with a scattering few 100,000 billions of red angels, with now and then a curiously complected diseased one. You see, they think we whites and the occasional nigger are Indians that have been bleached out or blackened by some leprous disease or other, or some peculiarly rascally sin, mind you. It is a mighty sour pill for us all, my friend. Even the modestest of us, let alone the other kind, that think they are going to be received like a long-lost government bond and hug Abraham into the bargain. I haven't asked you any of the particulars, Captain, but I judge it goes without saying, if my experience is worth anything, that there wasn't much of a hoorah made over you when you arrived, now was there? Don't mention it, Sandy, says I, coloring up a little. I wouldn't have had the family see it for any amount you are a mind to name. Change the subject, Sandy, change the subject. Well, do you think of settling in the California Department of Bliss? I don't know. I wasn't calculating on doing anything really definite in that direction till the family come. I thought I would just look around meantime in a quiet way and make up my mind. Besides, I know a good many dead people, and I was calculating to hunt them up and swap a little gossip with them about friends and old times and one thing or another, and ask them how they like it here as far as they have got. I reckon my wife will want to camp in the California range, though, because most all her departed will be there, and she likes to be with folks she knows. Don't you let her. You see what the Jersey district of heaven is for whites. Well, the Californian district is 1,000 times worse. It swarms with the mean kind of leather-headed, mud-colored angels, and your nearest white neighbor is likely to be 1,000,000 miles away. What a man mostly misses in heaven is company. Company of his own sort and color and language. I have come near settling in the European part of heaven once or twice on that account. Well, why didn't you, Sandy? Oh, various reasons. For one thing, although you see plenty of whites there, you can't understand any of them, hardly. So you go about as hungry for talk as you do here. I like to look at a Russian or a German or an Italian. I even like to look at a Frenchman if I ever have the luck to catch him engaged in anything that ain't indelicate. But looking don't cure the hunger. What you want is talk. Well, there's England, Sandy, the English district of heaven. Yes, but it is not so very much better than this end of the heavenly domain. As long as you run across Englishmen born this side of 300 years ago, you are all right. But the minute you get back to Elizabeth's time, the language begins to fog up, and the further back you go, the foggier it gets. I had some talk with one Langland and a man by the name of Chaucer, old-time poets, but it was no use. I couldn't quite understand them, and they couldn't quite understand me. I have had letters from them since, but it is such broken English I can't make it out. Back in those men's time, the English are just simply foreigners, nothing more, nothing less. They talk Danish, German, Norman, French, and sometimes a mixture of all three. Back of them, they talk Latin and ancient British, Irish, and Gaelic, and then back of these come billions and billions of pure savages that talk a gibberish that Satan himself couldn't understand. The fact is, where you strike one man in the English settlements that you can understand, you wade through awful swarms that talk something you can't make head or tail of. You see, every country on earth has been overlaid so often, in the course of 1 billion years, with different kinds of people and different sorts of languages, that this sort of mongrel business was bound to be the result in heaven. Sandy, says I, did you see a good many of the great people history tells about? Oh, yes, plenty. I saw kings and all sorts of distinguished people. Do the kings rank just as they did below? No. A body can't bring his rank up here with him. Divine right is a good enough earthly romance, but it don't go here. Kings drop down to the general level as soon as they reach the realms of grace. I knew Charles II very well, one of the most popular comedians in the English section. Draws first rate. There are better, of course, people that were never heard of on earth, but Charles is making a very good reputation indeed, and is considered a rising man. Richard the Lion-Hearted is in the prize ring and coming into considerable favor. Henry VIII is a tragedian, and the scenes where he kills people are done to the very life. Henry VI keeps a religious book stand. Did you ever see Napoleon, Sandy? Often. Sometimes in the Corsican range, sometimes in the French. He always hunts up a conspicuous place and goes round and around with his arms folded and his field glass under his arm, looking as grand, gloomy, and peculiar as his reputation calls for, and very much bothered because he don't stand as high here for a soldier as he expected to. Why? Who stands higher? Oh, a lot of people we never heard of before. The shoemaker and horse doctor and knife grinder kind, you know. Clodhoppers from goodness knows where that never handled a sword or fired a shot in their lives. But the soldiership was in them, though they never had a chance to show it. But here they take their right place, and Caesar and Napoleon and Alexander have to take a back seat. The greatest military genius our world ever produced was a bricklayer from somewhere back of Boston. Died during the Revolution. By the name of Absalom Jones. Wherever he goes, crowds flock to see him. You see, everybody knows that if he had had a chance, he would have shown the world some generalship that would have made all generalship before look like child's play and apprentice work. But he never got a chance. He tried heaps of times to enlist as a private, but he had lost both thumbs and a couple of front teeth, and the recruiting sergeant wouldn't pass him. However, as I say, everybody knows now what he would have been. And so they flock by the millions to get a glimpse of him whenever they hear he is going to be anywhere. Caesar and Hannibal and Alexander and Napoleon are all on his staff, and ever so many more great generals. But the public hardly care to look at them when he is around. Boom! There goes another salute. The barkeeper's off quarantine now. Sandy and I put on our things. Then we made a wish, and in a second we were at the reception place. We stood on the edge of the ocean of space and looked out over the dimness, but couldn't make out anything. Close by us was the grandstand, tier on tier of dim thrones rising up toward the zenith. From each side of it spread away the tiers of seats for the general public. They spread away for legs and legs. You couldn't see the ends. They were empty and still and hadn't a cheerful look, but looked dreary like a theater before anybody comes. Gas turned down. Sandy says, we'll sit down here and wait. We'll see the head of the procession come inside away off yonder pretty soon now. Says I, it's pretty lonesome, Sandy. I reckon there's a hitch somewheres. Nobody but just you and me. It ain't much of a display for the barkeeper. Don't you fret, it's all right. There'll be one more gunfire, then you'll see. In a little while we notice a sort of a lightish flush away off on the horizon. Head of the torchlight procession, says Sandy. It spread and got lighter and brighter. Soon it had a strong glare like a locomotive headlight. It kept on getting brighter and brighter till it was like the sun peeping above the horizon line at sea. The big red rays shot high up into the sky. Keep your eyes on the grandstand and the miles of seats sharp, says Sandy. and listened for the gunfire.